It's been more than 30 years since Eritrea gained its independence from Ethiopia to become one of the most isolated and repressive nations in the world. The nation is known for forced detention and torture, media suppression, forced disappearance, and most of all, forced and indefinite conscription of its youth. When the program started in 1994, conscripts were military trained but then demobilized after 18 months. However, in 1999, following the Eritrean government's invasion of Tigrai followed by a 2-year-long war with Ethiopia, former fighters were forcibly conscripted. Later, after the end of the war in 2001, the Eritrean regime would introduce Warsai Kaalo development campaign and declared that all high school students would complete their education in Warsai Kaalo Secondary and Vocational Training Center in Sawa Military Training Camp, located in an isolated location in the region of Gashbarka, bordering Sudan. Warsai Kaalo development campaign also made national services an indefinite way of life in Eritrea. Eritrean youths were destined to live a life of indefinite military service without any pay or benefits. More so, Sawa military training camp would literally turn into a living nightmare for many Eritrean youth that were exploited and harassed by authorities that exercise unchecked authority. Sexual exploitation of female recruits is common, and those that refuse face harsh punishment by their superiors.
They took us to Sawa. But after 2 days in Sawa, they were gathering up women from everywhere. They took us to farms. So I went to 3 or 4 different farms just working the fields. We would plant, weed, do a bit of everything. And throughout our work, our guards would make deals with other generals who had farms nearby, so they would take us there, do the work, and take the money, I guess. Throughout our stay in these different farms, there were many women who were either threatened or were asked for sexual favors in exchange for cell phones, a phone call, in exchange for water, in exchange for pads, menstrual pads, for anything. Some were desperate. All were desperate.
Indefinite services in Eritrea has led to the massive exodus of Eritrean youth, with the nation producing the second highest number of refugees to Europe next to only Syria, a country with a population of 18 million and embroiled in one of the most deadly conflicts in the recent memory.
They forced us to discontinue our education and pulled us into national service. They told us it was our national obligation. We were made part of the military and turned into slaves. We have to do everything they tell us. At a certain point, it becomes unbearable for most of the recruiters and they flee Eritrea.
Many of these recruits face severe consequences if they're caught attempting to flee Eritrea or evade national service. Some are put in detention camps, many more are put in containers in the burning heat, tortured and killed.
ኣብዚ ሕጂ ክንሪኦ ከለና እዚ ሰብ እዚ ክትሃድም ሓሲብካ ተባሂሉ ማለት ተኣሲሩ ዘሎ እንታይ እዩ ልዕሊ 10 ሰብ ማለት እዩ ኣድማ ጌርኩም ተሃድሙ ሓሲብኩም ዝብል ማለት ካብ ውሽጢ ኣለው ናቶም ተሓበርቲ ሪፖርተር ይብፅሑ ማለት እዩ ላኣኹ ናቶም ክስታይ ማለት ጥርጣረ ወይ ሃድሙ ሓሲብኩም ተባሂሉ ኣብዚ ተኣሲሩ መጀመርታ ሃሪማም ብጣዕሚ ብዝስካሕካ ሕጋዊ ማለት እዩ ይህሮሙ ይእሰሩ ክሳብ ናይ ኤሌክትሪክ ምፅላው ገለኻል ማለት እዩ።
An investigative report by the Human Rights Watch published in 2019 found that more than 500,000 people fled Eritrea to evade indefinite national service. Other reports indicate that an estimated 12% of the country's population lives abroad. Isaias Afwerki, the nation's only president so far, unable to deny the high number of citizens seeking refuge from his regime, and in true Trump fashion would claim that his country could simply do without them.
It's wrong to think that this country is missing out because these people have left. They cannot in any way affect our work. Some may think they've weakened us, but really, having people like that on your team is burdensome.
We need to know, has it now definitely stopped the indefinite usage of people in national service?
There has never been indefinite usage of people in national service.
The UN says completely contrary.
Well, you just brought the UN report on your clip that I saw. The UN report, if you ask people who live in Eritrea, including European Union ambassadors, will tell you that this is a distorted picture of the reality.
The start of the peace process between Ethiopia and Eritrea had been a source of optimism among Eritreans that had hoped it would result in an end to indefinite national service in the country and the start of the more democratic chapter of their nation. The result would, however, be to the contrary. Just months into the peace process, the Eritrean government would once again close its borders with Tigray, continue indefinite services, and start a deadly war that would cost thousands of Eritreans their lives and further disgrace Eritrea as not only a repressive nation, but a genocidal one as well.